I need a little
Sorry.
white.
Great.
You know, I never.
And how old is she? Like,
What are you doing in Little Falls?
It's a little slower. There was and when he gets a drink, good job.
Well, you know, this is actually only my second.
You remember right? Change the song?
Before school restarts. Hard time before school.
But it's just that 20, he graduated, or he had it when he was 23. But that doesn't make any, I mean, I still don't know when he left home.
No, I don't either know when he left home.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with your work?
Sorry. Okay.
Our children's
You ready? Fired up. I'm gonna introduce you. Sweet. I'm not gonna say too much though. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm not going to get a microphone unless you want me to speak in a microphone, but just regular conversation I think is okay, especially for Mary and Sam, so. You don't have to yell, but we're okay, so. My name is Tim Hoheisel. Welcome to the Stearns History Museum. I see a lot of new faces here that I haven't seen before. Some current members, some past members, and I would encourage you to, if you are not currently a member of the museum, to go ahead and sign up and become a member, because this is kind of a rare event for us. We don't normally do free receptions. We do them occasionally, but typically our receptions, if we do it with the galleries that are open, just the cost is $7 per person. But with membership, everything we do here is free. Receptions, breakfast club, book club, all of our programs, family memberships, you can come in as many times as you want during the year. We also have a fantastic genealogical library and research center across the hall. Through that door, we have more than 500,000 images, 1,500 linear feet of material. We have researchers coming in from across the country, literally doing research here. So it's a very busy place. And so welcome to the museum. We are honored tonight to have two artists of the three in our show. This is a show that I asked Mary if she wanted to do. I've known Mary now since I moved here last summer, and when I found out she was an artist, I asked her to do a show, and we sell her work in our store. We have since the last couple of years. And so finding out that her dad was also an artist, I didn't know that right away, but I asked her if she would do a show, sort of a retrospective with her dad, herself, and then her niece, Mary. Samantha. So this show is Prototype, which is Don, the prototype, Handset Type, which is the type of print we need to do, and then it's Just My Type, which is kind of our cheesy little way of adding on to making the title of the show rhyme. So we have a presentation by Sam and Mary, PowerPoint presentation. They'll give you the history of their work, and then also a demo. And since you managed to come out tonight in this beautiful, sunny Stearns County day, on your way home, you can take home one of the posters that they will talk about too. So,
Yay.
take it away, Mary and Sam. Thank you very much.
Okay, you dim in the lights, right?
Yes.
I'm doing it. Sure. Okay. So
So welcome. Thank you guys for all coming out here. We're going to take a more of an informal route. We've got a bunch of pictures and we've got a bunch of information kind of in our heads, and then my grandma's here and my mom and dad are here too, so we might be asking for questions from the audience just to make sure, confirm our dates and information. But we're going to get started kind of talking about my grandpa first.
Okay, so Don, he graduated from the Philadelphia College of Art and Design in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he was married to my mom, and they had a couple kids, and he got a job offer at the College of St. Benedict in the art department. So we all moved to St. Joe, and I believe we actually lived on campus while they built our house. I have really vague memories of this really funky plastic furniture that was like round, like a pill, and then there was like a little butt carved out of it. I mean, that was the 70s, you know. So, but anyways, he taught silkscreen, photography, drawing, design, and he was there for 6+ years. And I mean, my dad loved to teach. I remember, you know, we had that basement, the unfinished basement. I remember roller skating, you know, with the like red pole, and I'd swing around the pole really fast. But he had like his studio in one place in the basement forever, and I remember he'd bring classes over to, you know, his studio at the time, and they were cool, and I just always liked being around them. I liked being around my dad teaching and all that art stuff, you know, at a young age. And he enjoyed St. Ben's. So then after St. Ben's, he worked at the liturgical press. He was the kind of guy that he could do everything. You know, obviously he was like this jack of all trades. He could change the oil in the car. He could fish, play catch. He could like bake like amazing things, and you know, we could play catch, whatever. He was like super good at everything. And I think that you know, I kind of just was always into following in his footsteps, you know. So that's a picture of him. Marianne, what's the story with that picture?
The teacher picture?
Did he win something?
High school, he was, yeah.
But he's a good-looking guy. Who's good? I mean, let's just look at that guy. Look at that. That's insane. I'm just saying. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so you know, this was probably like late 80s. Now he's teaching at St. Cloud State. He had gone from St. Ben's to the liturgical press to St. Cloud State, and he was his big thing at that time was silk screening. Like, he was the master. And these posters that he was doing for the theater department were mind-blowing. And he was a photographer too, so a lot of times he would go to the rehearsals and take pictures of the people that were in the plays or whatever, and then that was kind of where he would start. But he was an unbelievable designer, and so therefore like his silkscreen posters were just amazing. But not unlike what I do, they were layer upon layer upon layer. Like that orange one, I think, was like 5 colors, and to do 5 color silkscreen posters, I mean, it's kind of a big deal. And you know, I remember helping him with that too. You know, cleaning out screens and hanging them from all these strings in the art rooms so they could dry in between every color. But so he was really making a name for himself as a designer in the area.
And I remember hearing a bunch of stories about people that would come in. Like, I obviously wasn't born yet, but I have these memories of people coming and talking about, oh, I remember that poster. It totally got stolen. Or everybody always talks about, because these posters, and there's 3 of them on display here, but the posters were actually like the same thing you would hang up. You know, it was advertising. And people would just take them before the show was over, and they would just steal them. And so a lot of people say, oh yeah, I saw that, and then it got taken down before I could steal it or something. So everybody's trying to one up on taking the poster down too soon, but not quite soon enough. And there's a few of these posters here out in the front. So if you haven't had a chance to look at them yet, there's 3, I think, 3 of the posters from this collection on display in the front part of the gallery.
But there was probably like I mean, I don't know how many we have, but there was at least like, I mean, maybe
15.
20-ish. There's a lot, and they're so different, and they're all really beautiful. So then, the next stage was my dad hung out with a lot of these cool printer guys like Mike Murphy and Jim McCoy, and these guys that had these letterpress print shops. Like this picture where my dad is, and there are not a lot of pictures of my dad in existence, so this is a lovely, capturing of my dad, which you can barely tell it's him. But so this was Murphy's Landing. This place, I have a couple memories of going there too, but it was just full of letterpress machines, and they were always humming. I don't even know what they really who they printed for, but it was like a super exciting place to go visit. So that's my dad working on that Vandercook press, and so kind of during that time was when all the new fandangled stuff was coming into play, and I think a lot of these guys, this stuff became obsolete, and there was just absolutely no market for it. It was just being dumped, put out to pasture, whatever. And my dad loved kind of working on machines that, like the old stuff, he just could work on that stuff forever, and he loved it. So he, throughout all the different guys he knew that were kind of emptying out their print shops, he acquired some really cool stuff. Like he got that Vandercook #4 proof press, which is my soulmate. And then he's got like a couple other big platen presses, and he really had everything. He had some really fantastic font families like Futura and Helvetica and Optima that he acquired all of that stuff. Like he knew what was cool and what was not. And that's just from being a good designer. So then the next step was what he did was basically built on to the garage of the house that we lived in. We had a little one staller, and I don't even know if he really consulted with my mom, but I think he was just like, yo, we're doing some construction here. And so these ginormous presses and like hundreds of drawers of type were moved in, and that's what he was gonna just play with on the side. So a next kind of really cool connection that happened was there was some cool people that were at St. Cloud State, at that time, and I was still in high school for some of it, but then I graduated and attended St. Cloud State. And Philippe, I have no idea how to pronounce his last name, but I think it's like Castigliani, this cute little guy from Catalonia. Right, yeah. And he is he's a film guy, but he's also this amazing poet, and he's super, super talented. And I mean, I can only guess like what it's like to move from Catalonia to Stearns County. But I think it was probably a little rough on the guy. He was a very delicate flower, and Stearns County was hard on him, but my dad and him like totally hit it off because, my dad was, he could be this like, a man's man, but he was also really refined, like he knew, he was really into politics, he was really into music and poetry, and those two made like a super lifelong connection. And they decided to start working together. I think my dad was the kind of guy that would walk up to somebody like Philippe, who that long ago was super probably insecure of his work and just like, oh my God, I got this, real legit job and blah, blah, blah. And my dad was like, I love your poetry, let's make a book. And Philippe talks to me about it now. He's actually in Paris right now touring with his poetry. Like, that's how talented the guy is. And he talks about how, and your dad, he just wanted to make a book with me, and I didn't understand why, And my dad knew, like, just like he knew about the letterpress and he knew about all this stuff, like he knew talent and he knew like diamonds in the rough, and so they did a lot of projects together, but this book, which is on display, is one of the big projects that they did together. And so it's Philippe's French poetry alongside of its English translation. And then there's silkscreen, there's letterpress, there's die cutting. I mean, the amount of work that went into these books is like insane. And it was this huge undertaking, and they finished them, and my dad, of course, like did all of it, like bound it and foil stamped the front, and then they got these little bags made. I mean, they're everything about them is outstanding, and I think they were a little ahead of their time, you know. I mean, book arts now, and I'm sure none of you guys know like a lot about it even still, but even then, I think people were like, well, why would I pay this much for a book? You know, I can get them at, you know, whatever for 10 cents. Like, I mean, obviously a lot of work into this. So they did sell some, and it saw some like notoriety, but I think it was just ahead of its time. I think a lot of my dad's stuff was like that. But Philippe wanted to be here, and he was going to give a whole spiel about my dad. In fact, I emailed, he doesn't email, which is so frustrating, but I emailed someone in France who knows him and tried to like do this whole thing, and then I was like, forget it. But if he was here, he would have like gushed on and on about my dad and how that project was. So you got to take a look at the book, and there's still some left, and I wanna you know, get them out in the hands of the people, because they do no good sitting in a box in the basement, but they're amazing.
And the book was published in 1993, and there are still unfinished pieces. Like, it was so time consuming to make a single copy of the book that we still have a lot of unfinished parts of the books in the basement, because they never, I mean, they made like maybe 20 final finished copies of it, but there is enough parts to make more of the books, but with no market and no people interested in it, there's not the time to finish them all. So we have all these parts, and we were trying to figure out when the book was published, and we were thinking it was like in the 2000s or something, and then all of a sudden we realized 1993, and we're like, wow, that means he just sat on all of these book parts for like 10 years. Why would he do that? It's such an awesome book, and we just love it so much that we wish we could maybe ask questions now about like, why didn't you finish it, and how come there's so many unfinished parts?
Well, I think Philippe wants them now, because now he's got like connections, and I think he wants to. We should finish them and give them to him. Hey, he's gonna be in Paris, you know. Oh, that's me. And
You should deliver them personally.
yeah, I think I probably should.
Yeah.
Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, so as you may have caught on the very first slide, my dad's logo, Bruno design, was this rooster. And so after he passed away in 2003, very suddenly, I moved home from where I was at the time, which was Madison, Wisconsin, kind of doing everything and nothing. Because I'm like, well, I spent a lot of time in the print shop. I graduated with a printmaking degree from St. Cloud State, and you know, I was like gonna knock the dust of St. Joe off my heels and like go to bigger cities because I had it all figured out. But you know, really I did have nothing figured out. But so obviously after this huge tragedy in my life, I'm thinking, well, what's gonna happen with that print shop? You know, I mean, I don't want anything to happen to it. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to move home and figure it out there. So one of the biggest things was coming up with a logo, and I knew that I wanted, you know, the base of my logo to be, you know, a lot about my dad. Obviously, everything about what I do now is because of him. So so as you can see, I constructed a little chick who is the offspring of the rooster, and then the rest kind of makes sense. Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good story. It's a good logo. Oh, okay. Well, so let's just fast forward, or not? No, we're not fast forward.
We're not that far?
Okay, no, we're talking.
Okay.
Okay. So, so now I'm back and I got this logo and I'm like, hey, what should I do? And so, like, you were what?
Little, like,
Well, little.
I mean, maybe,
Well, you're a
12.
tweener.
yeah,
Okay.
12 or 13.
So I was like, you know, what am I gonna do in this print shop? You know, of course I had a million different jobs. Like I was working, I was a bill collector, I don't know, I did everything.
a bartender.
But, yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's true. But so I was like, well, Sam, you should come hang out with me there, because Sam was like mini me, and is still. And I mean that as a positive thing, so don't take it offensively. But like she was into art stuff too, and she was always hanging out with Grandpa in the print shop and blah blah blah. So I was like, let's figure out what we can do in here. And it was really scary to be in there by myself, only because I felt like I wasn't supposed to touch anything, because every time I was in there prior, he was there. So I'm like, dude, I'm not sure if I should be, touching this. And she's like, of course you should, turn it on. But so I think we started figuring out, okay, well, we'd be in there drinking pots and pots of coffee and laughing and being stupid, and we'd be like, well, we're hilarious, so we should make hilarious things. And so that's when the cards kind of started. So we started with just ridiculous, funny things and little images, all these kind of plates that we'd find, and we started making the cards. And the difference between our cards and, say, Hallmark was, well, there was a lot of differences, but, namely was like cussing, because I cuss, and it turned out Sam cussed too, and I made her swear that it wasn't because of me. Like, I'd be like, just tell me you didn't learn it from me. She'd be like, no, man, I learned it in middle school, I think. And I was like, whew, because your parents already kind of don't like me. So, all right, but so we started with these cards, and the coolest part of it was like, I had a friend who was a buyer at Electric Fetus in St. Cloud, so she started, I don't know how she would have heard about it. Were we on Facebook at that time?
No.
I don't think that
No,
existed.
Facebook didn't even exist.
How did anybody do anything at that time? But, so this gal, Katie, she was a buyer at Electric Fetus, and she's like, man, these cards are sweet. These are hilarious. Like, we'll buy them. And I'm like, what? Really? So I think, obviously, then I'm like, well, this could actually be something. And so that's how it all started. And there was some really ugly designs in the beginning, for sure.
For a couple years. There were some rough spots. Paper choices.
But still, they said, like, F-U-C-K on them, and people were like, I gotta buy it. They didn't even know why. They were just like, it's in a store, and it says a swear word on it. I mean, now, you can't swing a stick and not hit something with a swear word on it. But I'd like to think we played a role in that. So anyways, we were starting stuff, and then we were getting involved with, like, Avon Area Arts, which was a local
Art crawl.
yeah, like art community thing. And so we were doing art fairs, and that was really when we were figuring out that people were just handing us money to take this stuff. And I love your cards and blah, blah, blah. And so the reinforcement was starting to happen, like this could actually be a business. And during that time I was still kind of doing some art stuff, some prints and that kind of thing, because I was always doing that, and that was stuff that I did with my dad. But now it was more of a partnership with me and Sam, and we worked really well together, and we would do these 14-hour long, like coffee fueled, like insane, like print forever, and it was good. It was pretty good.
Most of the original cards, you might read them and think they're kind of funny or something, but when we made them, we were crying, we were laughing so hard. It was like no sleep, 5 pots of coffee, had a huge wad of Big League Chew in our mouth,
Big League Chew.
and we were just like laughing. We were like, this is going to be the next big thing, we're going to make so much money, and then nobody would buy the card, and we're like, next time it'll be the biggest thing. And I think that was what I learned that was really positive from like working at Bruno Press from being so little, was that we always were trying new things. We were always doing new stuff. And if a card wouldn't sell, we're like, well, maybe it's because people don't understand how awesome we are. Let's just try again. and
Let's try and educate them.
There was a long time when it was a lot of making cards that we didn't even know if we were going to sell. We were just making cards because we thought we were hilarious. And it took maybe 4 or 5 years for people to catch on to actually how funny the cards were, and then they started thinking, oh, I could send this to this person, or I want to buy this card, but I don't know if I could send it to anybody.
Well, another really interesting thing that I would have to say that I look back, 8 years ago now and laugh about is when we were at one of those celebration of the arts art things at whatever Angel Fire Ranch. I was making all this money, and it was awesome, and everyone was laughing. And then I heard later, the president of the Avon Area Arts, it was J.D. Jorgensen. he called me and he's like, you know, it's no big deal and I don't want to upset you and whatever, and I know that what's going to follow is gonna upset me and I'm going to like worry about it for the next 20 years, whatever. But I'm like, what? And he's like, well, someone told us they were so offended by your cards that they picked up their family and left. So meanwhile, there was, you know, 1,000 people that loved it, but there was one person that saw an F word on a card and, you know, and took their family and we're going to let you know and strong word let it and da da da. And I was like just crushed, totally crushed. And I'm just like, what do I need to do? And da da da. And I look at who I am now and I'd be like, so go. You know, like that's awesome. That's huge. I mean, you know, 8 years ago I would be crying about it and worrying about it and should I apologize and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, if you don't like it, don't look at it. Certainly don't buy it. And if you get it, you know, think about it. But whatever. So, I mean, that was a huge thing for us too. It was like growing into us, you know, and like owning it and not, and being done with like apologizing for it, because we all have different tastes, man. And that's awesome. But like this, what we got ain't changing. You know, it's probably going to get worse, in fact. So anyways, all that was happening. We were getting better. And then some of the faculty at St. Ben's and St. John's and St. Cloud State starts hearing about what's going on. And they're bringing their classes over to my studio. And, you know, you got to file in. Like, we got to clean hardcore before there's a class going to show up at my tiny shop. And we got to, like, be really strategic about where everyone stands because it's small. But then I would do my little talk about, like, you know, local gal making a living, which, I mean, I was, sort of. But then that started, a couple of the college kids would linger, and they'd be like, so can I, like, hang out here? And I'd be like, well, sure. What do you want to do? And they'd be like, well, I want to work for free. And I'd be like, that seems awesome, you know? So then I started getting these interns, which was brilliant. And then after like the first couple, like, you know, protos, we were like, let's go legit. Like, let's get, you know, teachers and let's make this like an actual internship. So now, you know, 6 years later, they're lined up. I mean, every time of the year, even summer, you know, like, and now she went to school in Morris. She's sending, you know, her friends that graduated from Morris, you know, it doesn't even matter if they're local, but it's awesome. And I did struggle with some guilt about like having these, like this free labor, but I'm telling you, man, and the difference between my generation and this current generation is these kids don't have jobs. They're 20 years old and they've never worked in their life. I mean, I was delivering papers when I was 12. I worked at Kay's Kitchen, probably illegally, when I was 13. Anyways, like these kids, they have nothing. Like they have no experience, whatever. And so I'm giving them that. And I give them a ton of responsibility. I give them a huge portfolio. I give them raving references. And so the guilt kind of disperses a little bit. Plus we have a blast. You know, I mean, they're cool kids. We've only had one, like, but so the interns are cool. So we're going to show you a little video, a day at the shop that my friend Mike Tinas did. He's got a little production company called Bald Eagle Productions. Sweet. Yeah, so that's kind of like what we're doing in there. I was making a poster for what did it say?
Snow Rider.
Snow Rider, yeah. It was an event that he was having out at Powder Ridge, this Mike Tinas guy. So that was our barter. I would make him posters and he'd make me that sweet video. So, and that was Lexi, Sam's sister, my other niece, who also has done time at Bruno Press. What do we got next? Oh, so then, to top everything off, I've been making these connections around the world. Yeah, I know. So the Facebook love and hate situation, but I have really connected with a lot of people, printers especially, and that printer community, and the way that I have like understood and respected like networking with people has really set me up for a lot of amazing things in my life. And so I'm not going to go on all the stories on how I met all these people, but Jyrta on the far end is from Sweden, and I got a grant last year as an established artist. What is that? And I got to go visit her in Sweden and print with her and teach a class and do Swedish things. It was amazing. And then on that trip, I also got to go to the south of France and print with Robert. And Robert is totally awesome. And I met him through Philippe, if we backtrack. We all know who Philippe is. So I'm telling you, with this network, it is just totally unstoppable. So, and then Amos, the humble Negro printer, is what he calls himself. He is from Alabama, but he's got a print shop in Detroit now. So Jyrta and I took a road trip to see his place in Detroit, which was totally amazing. And really, I mean, these guys in my world are like John Bon Jovi. Like, they're the big stuff, and they're my close personal friends. I'm just saying, it's pretty awesome. And they want me back. Like, they want me to come back. And I send them stuff all the time, and they, like, talk about me and like, this crazy woman in the U.S., and it's pretty awesome. The other big thing that okay, so since we started these really ugly, poorly designed cards a long time ago, we've actually nailed it down hardcore, and now I've got over 200 different designs of cards that
Are good.
are really good. I mean, there's maybe 3 or 4 that sort of suck, but I have my cards all over in stores. Like, I've had reps in California, in Seattle, Portland, and so like I send my cards out to stores all over the U.S. And part of that reason is because of this ginormous trade show that happens in New York called the New York Stationery Show, which, as you can imagine, anything that would occur in New York is like ungodly expensive. But it's New York, man. It's cool. So so this is Paul, and that was one of my interns, Catherine. And this was the second year we went. And the first year, I went with Nikki, intern number 1 extraordinaire in the back row. She's awesome. You'll see her. But so this whole thing with the stationery show is about finding wholesalers, finding people that are stores, they're reps, they're whatever. They're coming to look at my line and make orders. And so the reason my booth looks like this is because I learned the hard way, because I don't have a lot of money and I shouldn't spend it like I have it, because credit cards are only the illusion of money. So that first year I was like totally brainwashed, like you have to have this in order to be taken seriously and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know what, that's a bunch of bull hockey. So that next year and this year, I mean, like my entire booth can fit in 2 check bags, which is, okay, it's 3 this year.
Yeah.
Okay. But the point is like we're totally doing it Bruno Press style. Like we're not being talked into like the bling and the like lace and frill, which we're not about anyways. Like gray burlap is totally Bruno Press. You know what I'm saying? So, and the booth looks amazing. And in fact, like this hanging system was my brother, back row, Brilliance, and his wife that constructed these metal hanging things that I just use magnets. Like it's amazing. Anyways, this is our 3rd year this year, and we leave next Friday, and Sam's going with, and Paul, my booth guy. So we'll be there for a week, and the show is 4 days of complete insanity, but it's totally awesome. And there's